All right, time for my first oil change on the CRF. Now, I'm doing this, I'm just at roughly 200 miles. The owner's manual is 600 miles, then change the oil. So everybody can flap their gums. Some guys are like, well, keep the break-in oil in there for the 600 miles, is what they say. I like to get the break-in oil out in case there are any little particles or little metal chunks out, get them out of there, get fresh oil in, and run it till the next recommended oil change. So, keyboard warriors, have at it, knock yourself out. I'm changing my oil at 200 miles. So, I just took the bike for a little ride. It's warm, got warm oil in it. I'm gonna go ahead and crack everything loose and get her drained out. There she is right there. Pretty girl. Pretty girls walk like this. Here we go. Okay. Down here, so you can see. All right. So, I have 8mm. 12mm for the drain bolt. I have a new filter. This is a cheap Neutron filter from Rocky Mountain ATVMC, which, by the way, Rocky Mountain, I get nothing free from them or no discounts or anything like that, so I just use their stuff. Hopefully you can pause it and maybe see that part number, I'm not sure. And it takes 1.53 quarts of 10W30. I already had this here at the shop, so that's what I'm going to use. It is the Honda recommended stuff, so we're going to put it in. Alright, so get the drain pan down here. I have the fill cap cracked loose so air can get in and help the oil to drain out. Let's crack this bitch open. She's a gusher. Okay. There's the drain plug. Of course, they'll recommend that you change this washer every time. I do not. I just make sure it's clean, put it in again, and I have 0 torque specs. I have no torque specs for any of the bolts. So you just got to use your own discretion when you tighten them up. Don't do it like I do it. And do not over torque drain bolt or these bolts. That actually buzzed out of there pretty quick, so I'm going to go ahead and crack these loose. You're probably going to want to, you don't want oil everywhere. I'll try to put a rag here to catch some of it, but you're almost always going to get some oil some places. And this is the first time I've ever had these out, so keep an idea of where they went until I see if they're all the same length. There is quite a bit of oil coming out of there. So far, those are all the same length bolt. And I can feel that this is spring loaded, so I'm putting pressure on it while I get the last bolt out. Come on. It's worse when a bolt feels like it's free and it's not. Okay. All 4 bolts out. That's what you're taking out of the oil filter cover. Oh, and looky. So you got a spring down in there, and there's also a gasket. That's a newbie. Usually it's a rubber O-ring in there, so you should probably replace that, which of course I'm not going to. Just because I'm a rebel, I guess. I'm just going to make sure I have this wiped off. Very good. And make sure this gasket is extremely clean. And make sure the surface of your cap is extremely clean. Okay. New filter. Some guys dump some oil in them, so they're pre-primed. I'm not going to. I'm just gonna stick her on there. You might want to smear a little oil on the rubber O-ring, on the rubber part here, just so it slides over easier and doesn't possibly tear. Of course, make sure your filter looks the same and is correct. Now that gasket, you could put a little dab of grease on there if you want it to hold. I'm going to try to stick my bolts in here through it a little bit. You son of a... to hold that gasket in place. Like I said, you have that spring, so you can already see my gasket came off of that bolt. So definitely keep that in mind. You may want to order a few of those gaskets to cover all your upcoming oil changes. It's been a while since I've had a bike that actually used an actual gasket like that. Like I said, they're usually a rubber O-ring. I'm sure a lot of you guys will prefer to use the Honda OEM oil filter also. I've used those Neutrons in a few other bikes, and of course I'm not pushing them and making you buy one. I'm just kind of telling you that I have used them in other bikes. Okay. And like I said, I'm just snugging this back up. You have to torque them at your own risk, or look up the torque specs in the owner's manual. Just being very gentle. Okay. And you may want to Some guys like to shush the bike around, tilt it all around to get all the oil out. I'm just going along with what came out. We're gonna get this back in here. Find the hole without any hair around it. There we go. Make sure you always start that with your fingers so that you can be sure that you are not cross-threading it, because that is the last thing you want to do is cross-thread this or over-torque it. I just give it a very gentle. So make sure you look that up or research the torque specs on that so that you don't have any issues. Don't do it like I did and just give it a little Okay, now you always want to be sure and put oil back in. That off well, wipe this off. Get me a little funnel. If I have a little funnel, there we go. And 1.53 quarts. So here we got the one. My funnel's a little small, so I gotta pour this slow. Can't just dump it in, balls out. W30. Then of course I will run this and recheck it in the sight window. One, and this one is basically already right around, this is one that I had used on something else and it's already right around the 0.53 mark. So we're going to go ahead and dump that in. I'll stay a little bit shy just to make sure I don't overfill it. Then if I need to, I will add a little bit. Okay. Make sure there's no dirt around there. I think I wiped it off and be good to go. Be sure to dispose of your used oil properly. Quick start. Sounds good. Like, subscribe, get on your Honda, get outside. Later.